I feel very fortunate to be sitting here with Mr. Ken Ralston, who is over there. I'm pointing in the wrong direction on my screen.
Well, let's see. I'm Ken Ralston, visual effects supervisor. I started at ILM on Star Wars when we were down in Los Angeles. Went up to Marin County. We did some movies. And then people liked the movies, so we had jobs for a long time. And that's kind of it.
That's a good summary. End of the video. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
See you later.
To start at ILM on Star Wars is kind of a special thing because ILM didn't even exist before Star Wars. It wasn't like you were just signing up for a job that you knew was good and stable.
Right. I've said this story before, but Dennis was contacted first. I'm not even sure how he was connected to Dykstra in the group, but knew somebody, I guess.
I think Phil claims that one.
Okay, we'll give it to him.
Yeah, he needs more.
No, I want to take credit.
That's fine.
Anyway, so Dennis had the script. John Berg and I, we were in somebody's car. I can't remember. Might have been a Volkswagen because it felt very small. Went to a restaurant at lunch. We're all working at Cascade Pictures, where we all sort of started. Really, a great place to start. And looked at the script, and it was really cool. And Dennis was going to go do that, and that was kind of it. And kind of forgot about it. And then I got a call from Dennis saying, "Hey, you want to be my assistant on this movie called Star Wars, George Lucas?" And I went, "Oh, sure." Thinking like anyone in any part of the movie business, well, this will be 6 months, 8 months, or whatever it's going to be. And then we'll all be on the street again, desperate to find another job. And I guess part of that was true. But anyway, that's kind of how it all started. And off we went.
How many years later that it's like, oh, that couple of month job really held up there, huh?
Yeah, that really worked out well.
Yeah.
But, none of us had a clue what was about to. How could we know what was about to happen?
Well, it's almost miraculous what did happen. And I don't mean that in any kind of like, flowery kind of way or even talking about the movie itself, but just that any movie gets made is sort of a miracle.
It is, because they are so painful and full of problems and variables you can't anticipate, et cetera, et cetera. And in that movie, of course, because anyone who knows the history of it, was nothing but headaches for everybody, especially George.
Right, yeah. Okay, so all of this leads to you starting at ILM, at the start of ILM. And then 20 years there, about?
Yeah, 20 years.
And eventually visual effects supervising. I have a short list that I saw online. It was Wrath of Khan, Cocoon, the Back to the Future movies, Roger Rabbit, Rocketeer, Death Becomes Her, Forrest Gump, The Mask, Jumanji, one of the Men in Black movies, Castaway. Are you tired just from hearing that list? That sounds like a lot of work.
I'm not tired because it doesn't even seem real. It's weird. I look back and go, what? Did I do any of this? That was me doing that? It's hard to believe at times because, first of all, how lucky could I be to get most of those projects? There's a few clunkers out there, but
we don't have to talk about those. Return of the Jedi comes about. So primarily on Jedi, you're doing visual effects, space shots, and I'll get into we'll get to the creature stuff in a minute. But I look at those composites in some of those space shots where there's countless elements on the screen. How in the heck are you tracking that and figuring it? And the camera's got to move backwards from the to the thing, and you're how do you guys track that? How did that?
We're all super geniuses.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay.
Did I say that? Well, luckily before Jedi, we had we were beaten into understanding how the Dykstra Flex worked and the kind of way of shooting these things, which was a big learning process, process over the first film and the second one too. And how you keep track of it? Well, you start off with either you have some form of previs at the time, or you have what we would come up with basically Joe Johnston drawings or Nilo Rodis, the storyboards that would show what in an ideal world what George might want, no matter who the director who got credit was on the film, but it was George. And so I would just take that and I'd say, okay, well, what are the big important elements here? Let's say it's that shot everyone brings up, but there's others.
Yeah.
It's the Millennium Falcon coming at us. It's being chased, and there's TIE ships firing, and there's crap in the background. There's ships everywhere going nuts. So you go, okay, I know the Falcon's important. I'll start there. So I'll program that, and you're right. So the ship starts far away. The camera's at the end of the track.
Right.
And the camera's doing this, and the model's rolling, and we go by the model, back it up. Any light passes, shut the lights off, turn the lights on, do another one of that, do it again. Any diffusion passes. Anyway, that's your first step.
Yeah.
And then you also, as you're doing this, before you shoot the actual color footage, you're shooting an RAR. What's that stand for now? I don't remember. It was a military black and white film. Basically, you would shoot that. It would pop out a negative.
Right.
Very quickly. So you could take that as your starting point. And you would run that on the projector, your 8mm, Moviola.
Right.
That was built specifically for film. And then you would start going, okay, there's that. Now I need to, and you have a grid. This is boring, but you have a grid on the Moviola, and you say, okay, look, that little square there, that's where I need a tie ship, and it's going to go up the grid at this point here, and you lay it out, and it's all drawn out for me. And then you take it to the set, you put in a tie ship, and you start running through this process of all the different ships, the actions you want it to have, the light, make sure the lighting's all close to what it should be. And then the background stuff, even if I didn't personally shoot it, I mean, we knew what we needed.
Right.
And I can't remember if I did on that shot or not. I may have.
Yeah.
Because all the stuff was on the stage.
Planet, and there's a Death Star, and goodness.
Yeah. And then you would say, good luck, optical.
Right. Here's a bucket of film rolls. Good luck with this. Right. You know? I assume you guys use buckets. I don't know. When you get to a certain amount of film, that's just the only measure.
It's probably true.
Someone online figured you as the guy who snuck a sneaker into one of the shots, and I believe a potato. Can we go on record? Are you prepared to own up to that?
Well, it's the potatoes are they're in the asteroid field. It's only because who knows why? Because I'm a jackass.
It looked like a potato.
Well, some of the models look like potatoes, and I'm sure I was with the guy who was assisting me, Sell Eddie, and I was just probably going, wow, you could have just stuck some potatoes up there. And then, of course, the way I do things is like, hey, you know what?
Yeah,
let's go to Ralph's at our dinner break, pick up some potatoes, because we were shooting on the night shift, so no one could see us do it. Of
course, yeah. That explains a lot.
And stick some potatoes on the model mover, and not ones that are featured, of course.
Of course not, no.
And they're flying through there. And then the sneaker, I think it was actually a photo of my sneaker.
Oh.
And I used to put a lot of weird stuff in the background just because you can't tell.
Right.
There'd be wads of gum for ships and things like that. Anyway, it's minutia. In the old days, it's like an old battleship model for, let's say, some 1940s war movie.
Right.
If you ever got a good close look at one of those big miniatures, you'd go, "Are you kidding me? Right. Is that on the surface? A bunch of wooden blocks and a bunch of junk?" Yeah,
but it works in the context.
And to me, it's really about learning the language of what you're doing.
Yeah.
What's really noticeable? What are you seeing that makes sense or not make sense? What do you want to waste your time on, or spend the real critical hours you have on the really important elements? The rest you can get in there if you know what you're doing.
What's going to be out of focus? What's going to be in the background?
Exactly.
A little like matte painting, maybe, because matte paintings. Most people who see them in person, the first time they see a matte painting, they go, "That's so loose. That's so soft. Is this really what that looked like? It looked photorealistic on the screen." And it's about knowing where you can get away with that.
That's right, and it's a good lesson too, because can tell you in the digital realm,
Mhm.
as you're getting into that, a lot of folks in certain instances seem to just naturally go the hardest, complicated, expensive way possible
Yeah.
because that's what the system's built for.
Hmm.
And trying to simplify things can be more difficult. I've done it in other movies, and we figured out ways to get around certain things. But yeah, it's not as simple as to grab the dumbest thing you can imagine, what's next to you, throw it out there and shoot it and get away with it.
Right. Well, I just think it's neat that we've just launched probably hundreds or thousands of people online looking for a wad of gum in the background of one of your movies now. So,
I can tell you,
yeah,
it's the scenes of the is it the rebel good guy ships in Jedi, the ones that look like giant sausages,
yeah, the little
or
pickle ships. Yeah,
the
yeah.
pickle ships. Yeah, that's what we used to call it. It's
um,
in those shots.
wow, yeah. There are people right now going to like Disney Plus and pausing a 4K screen to see what they can find.
They
Um,
probably also, because the fans can be so ravenous at times.
yeah.
What flavor gum was it?
Oh no. Do you recall?
No, I hope not.
With, if you want to know, ask in the comments, folks. Like and subscribe. The I'll give you two more ship questions, just because I'm as much of a creature guy as I am. I love models too. I love just the practical nature of that stuff that you guys were making back then. Did you
Yeah.
have a favorite ship working on the Star Wars films? And was there one that was particularly tough to shoot?
It's probably the same ship. It's the Millennium Falcon, at least on the big version of the
Yeah.
Millennium Falcon. It was one of the first models made for the first film,
Right.
and it weighed a ton. And all it was it took a lot of logistics to put it in the simplest place to shoot and to do the simplest moves. So that made it hard, but it was a fun ship to light. And then when Empire came around and I saw the kinds of scenes I was hopefully going to do, the model shop, we had them build the smaller 2-foot model so it could be more acrobatic and we could actually get stuff shot for the movie.
Yeah.
And that was used not all the time, but it was used for shots that made sense to use it in.
Yeah.
High ships chasing it and all of that. And that I always liked the Millennium Falcon. I just thought it was a cool design.
It's very unique, and I think the stuff they captured for Empire, that you guys pulled off there. Some of those ship moves are just beautiful on that thing.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm sure everybody throws these things at you, but yeah, the flip up into the cave. It's such a gorgeous shot. The camera move that goes with it, and of course the musical cue with the little the flutes up and down on it.
There is the music.
Yeah, it helps, right?
It helps a lot.
So I'll have someone will be very upset if if I don't ask about all those sort of comic art drawings you did for the Return of the Jedi behind the scenes, I guess, crew. How does that stuff come about? Is that just more free time on the night shift, or?
It's waiting around while the camera's shooting something. It can take a long time, and I'm always doodling. I'm drawing all the time. So I'd sit there and try to come up with some stupid images. By the way, thanks for sending me some of those stupid images.
Yeah, of course.
I hadn't seen some of them for a while. And I would do night crew notes. So I would write stuff that I wanted the day shift to do to continue on what I had been doing on the night shift, or what we needed. Mm-hmm. And so it would just kind of be that sort of thing. And I would draw whatever it was. I'm sure some of it is so tasteless and awful.
Wow.
And one thing you sent me, the Jabba the Hutt on Darth.
Oh, yeah.
What I think that is George wanted, because we were all, we were wore out. So he was asking everyone to come up with a design for a t-shirt, that's all.
Right.
Of something like saying, I hold up under pressure, something like that. And so I did a series of drawings. I think that's one of them. And I think he actually picked one with Yoda in a straitjacket that I had done.
Oh, gosh. I'll keep my eyes out for that. It was Jason Gibner was the one who found those and sent them. So, Jason, Ken, thanks.
Thank you, Jason. It was fun to see. It's also, there was that one sketch of just looks like a zombie face going,
yeah,
which I haven't seen for who knows how long.
I'm a doodler too. I get that. I have some people at the shop with me that you just can't leave a scrap of paper anywhere near some of these folks. There's gonna be something on it by the time they leave.
I would do a lot of doodling up in my office and draw stuff, some of it probably relatively finished just for laughs.
Okay.
And I would throw it in my trash can. And John Knowles' now wife, Jennifer, was working at ILM at the time. And apparently she pulled stuff out of my trash can that she still has. So I don't know what she's got, but they're probably worth pennies by now.
Or maybe even nickels. To me, that sounds like an art show. It's like Ken Ralston's trash.
Yeah.
And I guess the apostrophe there, it's like, is that possessive or is that like an is? I don't know. We'll leave that. That's the beauty in the interpretation of art.
That's right. It's how you want to see it.
That's right. So we started talking again here because of the Weequay maquette, which you sculpted for the Jedi Creature Crew. So for folks out there, we're doing this line of maquettes. It's called the Archive Collection. We're going to the Lucasfilm archives and scanning all of these amazing little bits of concept art into the digital space so that we can output them really as accurately as possible for people. And, we've got a few out so far, and Weequay is the next up. So how do you wind up going from models and stuff to making these maquettes for the Creature Shop?
Well, luckily, some of us were doing all kinds of jobs before we even got to ILM, just because we were nuts and we loved it. And so I was always sculpting stuff for my own fun, or when I was at Cascade, sculpting things we might need for some of the shots, or I would test myself as sculpting characters in clay on an armature, casting, the whole thing, and just learning, and loved all of that. And I had a certain knack for some sculpting. I'm no Phil Tippett, but I could kind of fight my way through some stuff. And when we were offered, because the first thing I did on Jedi was to be connected to the monster shop that Phil was heading up. And that was asked, what kind of designs can this whole group, right there, that's why ILM was so great. All of you people, why don't you put your hands in it, get to some paper, whatever, sculpt. You're all being offered this chance to come up with some stuff. It's like, oh, okay.
Right.
How fun is that?
They didn't just hand you a bunch of designs and say, here, make this. They said, dream some stuff up.
Yeah, so we all went off. Some of the things you sent me, I would do some real quick, sloppy sketches on paper. In fact, one of them, it's funny because I obviously had drawn a dog creature to be used that wasn't used, but I obviously stole it for Star Trek 3.
Oh.
There's a dog character I did for it's Chris Lloyd's dog.
That's
so you see, I wasn't even going to take the time to come up with a new design.
Listen, when you've done good work, you go back to it,
Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to compliment you. I believe Star Trek 3, I find that movie to be so fun just in general. But that's another one where the effect shots are just some amazing, beautiful things in that movie. And
thanks. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
But
anyway, so we all did our thing. So there were drawings and some maquettes. Some maquettes I did more elaborately. Mm-hmm. I was trying to come up with an idea for the Weequay character that was, some of these are supposed to be out with Jabba's hut, Jabba the Hutt's, ship out there, his boat thing, and in the desert it's hot. What would that look like? And then I started sculpting it. I guess I was flashing on the old Moby Dick movie and Queequeg. Of course, it doesn't look anything like that person, really. And I didn't even put any tattoos on his face. I think at the beginning I probably was thinking of doing it, but it wouldn't work with the wrinkles. So I just started doing that, just the head, and sculpted it in Sculpey, cooked it, painted it with acrylic paint. Had fun, had a great time doing that. And there's the hair piece. I don't know where I got that fake hair from, and the ponytail.
Yeah.
And just, it was fun coming up with the little nonsensical things that go on it. You never knew what George was going to pick out of this stuff. So that was one of several others that I had done. And some of them made it into the movie.
Yeah. Well, and the Weequay, it's funny, so they call him Queequeg throughout the production process. It looks like there's lots of little
Yeah.
call outs and names here and things. And I definitely, what you're saying resonates. It's like, you saw something and you pulled the inspiration from it, but you didn't copy it, and
Mhm.
something new came out of that. And I think, that's kind of a thing all effects guys kind of do. We absorb, we digest, and then we spit out
Yeah.
something new. But I just think it's a really neat maquette. I think it's got that sense of nobility about it. There's that stoic head back. I love, there's like an indication, maybe it's like a little ear hole or something way in the back, because he doesn't have, he's got big ears, but he's got something else behind it, and he's got
I'm trying to remember, did I put something in his ears? Or
he's got a little earring in one ear, the top.
Oh, okay.
And I know he's got like a little necklace on, which
Just stuff I found, or
yeah, it's neat. It's a really cool one. It's, of course, all those little elements you add onto it just make it harder for us when we go to recreate this stuff. So thanks, but but we're doing our best, and it's going to be a really neat addition. It's funny, actually, the prototype is hanging out up on the shelf over there. But with next to the Max Rebo, Phil's Bib Fortuna, that's Phil's Jabba, Tony McVeigh's Gamorrean from one of the more modern things, and some of Phil's Tauntaun stuff. Yeah, Tony's another just sweet, nice guy, and oh boy, is he a brilliant sculptor.
No kidding.
You mentioned some of the other ones. So there was one that the production called Wolf, which always kind of confused me because he doesn't look like a wolf at all. But he was eventually known as Klaatu, and he's the sort of scaly reptilian guy. He's got the hat. You did a little bust sculpt, very similar scale and size to the Weequay. Do you want to talk about him at all?
All that was said to me,
yeah.
the Weequay, nothing was said. But at one point during the course of this, I guess George had said, I want to get like a lizard-looking guy. That's all. Yeah. That's all you hear.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll go try and do that. And and that's how that showed up.
Nice. And then, we've the folks at home will know these names. I'm somewhat better with the crew names myself, but there's Pote Snitkin, who's like a full body. You went just right to the craft store on that guy. He's got an outfit. He's got a hunchy pose, 6 nostrils.
I wanted to have some fun with it. And actually, I like that design a lot. I always sort of thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I wish it had been in the movie more.
Yeah. Isn't that always
it's like just in the background, he's like got the rudder on a skiff or something running it.
Yeah. Isn't it always the way, like, the coolest ones never seem to make it in front of the camera?
That's true.
And the long neck guy's real cool. Kind of got turned up in the prequels, although I think your sculpt is more alien. The anatomy on the face is more unique, a little less unique.
I actually had asked, because I saw whatever prequel that was. Anyway, sorry, folks. And I saw this one character in one of the scenes. I was thinking, oh, that's funny. That sort of reminds me a little bit.
Yeah.
But what are the odds of that? And then I had talked to Doug Chang at some point, and he was saying, they went back through a bunch of that old stuff and went, hey, they pulled stuff out, and that really is how it got in there.
I kind of like Star Wars tends to do that. The people who are, doing the art departments and stuff like that now, they dig through what wasn't used on the originals, because you guys put out so much work that there was only so much that could get in, and really some of the cast-offs are great pieces and really interesting looks. When you were doing those little designs, you basically you make it sound like you just had a totally free hand. Was anybody coming by and saying, no, try this, no, try that? It was just you guys went and played.
Just did it. In fact, I probably did some of it at home. I mean, I just would do whatever I was doing during the day, and then get the old Sculpey out, and there you go, and have some laughs with it, and then bring it in, and you just waited to hear, is that what you want? Or, but I didn't show it like you'd be forced to do now, every couple of minutes to somebody.
Oof.
And so anyway, I would just put the finished product in front, and boom.
That's amazing.
It was either in or it was out.
And George was a pretty good curator, I think, of creatures. It seemed,
Yeah,
there's when you look through all of those designs. I mean, he had a great shelf of goodies to choose from, but he
yeah.
really picked the strongest stuff. And I think because he had so many different hands on it, you got these bold and different and varied. It doesn't look like your typical monster movie where all the monsters feel the same. They all have the same vibe. Like you guys really went in a lot. I mean, you made one that looks like a lobster on a rock, like,
Mhm.
and they made that guy too. Like somebody actually sculpted the rock lobster.
I was actually shocked that made it in. I mean, it actually was made because
Yeah.
it was such a hideous little thing.
Uh-huh.
Anyway,
Oh, hey. When it came time to take those maquettes and turn them into full-size stuff, were you still in the creature department at that point, or you had moved on? So,
I wasn't around with, I would obviously, you're working at a place where I went off to do Star Trek II,
mm,
The Wrath of Khan.
a movie no one's ever heard of.
They've never heard of it and no one likes it.
Nobody.
But that was a blast, by the way.
Yeah.
And
Oof.
plus it was a chance to like be be a supervisor, shared supervisor credit, but still. And so I got that break. But at that time, then Phil and the other people in the monster shop, which you could walk over and visit and see what they're doing, go see what's happening on Star Trek II, go see. That's the way the place was. And what a wild, great time that was. And go in, and I'll be honest, I don't think I ever said this to Phil, and I apologize, Phil. I always was a little miffed that Weequaig was sculpted to look older and more haggard for the movie. Puffier, he sort of lost that stoic sort of thing that I was going for.
He was a little more
like he was an old Weequaig.
All right, Phil.
Phil.
Yeah, gonna have to have Phil on next, and we'll just fight this out. I feel like this would be the time in the talk show where like, we've got Phil right now, and we bring him in
right off camera here.
Well, it's funny. One of the things I was going to ask is, how did you feel about the interpretations of your sculpts to full scale? And certainly, so okay, we know how you feel about Weequaig. Everybody else.
It's all fine. It's all fine. And the Weequaig is fine.
All right. Well, Phil, he's going to let you off the hook. Yeah.
Now, if he had been like a character who had a big role or something, I'd be like, well. But anyway, the others look pretty close to what I did, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty close. I almost wonder. I have to look. I don't know if they took his. Did they take his ears off for the final? I have to look now. I've been so focused on the maquette, I've started to lose how the final looked. So, we're now almost 40 years since you made that little sculpt. Probably over 40 years, because you probably did that in, when you were very young at the time, though, so it's fine.
Oh, boy.
So, 40 years later, that character now, and I don't expect that you're necessarily following along all, because there's so much Star Wars that comes out.
Probably not.
But, so in one of the animated series, there's a big character who's a Weequaig alien. There's a character that showed up in the Mandalorian show and the Book of Boba Fett, who's a speaking role that's a Weequaig character, one of the more foreground.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's one even in the Disney ride down in the Star Wars land in Disney World. They have.
I guess maybe Disney lost my address or something. I haven't got any royalty checks.
That's weird. Yet. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
It's tough to keep track of stuff. Look, it was 40 years ago, so
maybe
they sent it to the old address. I probably got returned. I think, but it's kind of neat that design endures. How does it feel when you see stuff like that? When you come back years later and you see people are still buying action figures of something you sculpted?
I don't know. I mean, it just seems very surreal to me. I feel very lucky that we had any chance to be involved with all these different aspects of the movie. And I mean, come on. I mean, even now, how many years later, and it's still, we're discussing it?
Yeah, we're having this talk, and that's...
We're having this talk about this movie that's 40 years old, and it's like, okay, wow.
Yeah.
It's too weird for me to take even seriously. It's just kind of an odd part of our society. It's just an amazing moment
Yeah.
that these films are so big for so many different generations.
Yeah. And to go down your list, I mean, granted, I left the stinkers off, but like that list, there's a lot of movies in there people still talk about and people absolutely love with a passion. And
well, it's all up to me. I mean, it's
absolutely no, 100%. Yep. But it's you know, you guys had the folks that inspired you. You guys now inspire us. We now, you know, hopefully someday inspire someone else, and it's this great cycle that keeps going. What do you think makes a good monster, just in general?
God. Big teeth. What makes a good monster? You know, it's sort of dependent on the movie. I think if it's character driven, you were mentioning the old Universal monster films, but so many makeups and brilliant makeups over the years for different movies. It's a combination, obviously, of whatever actor's playing this role and what the role has been written to be, which is vital. And then, you know, actor, and then the makeup design, utilizing what it needs to be to tell the story of who this character is. It's not just slapping some big eyes on something, some antenna, and putting blood in its mouth and saying, yeah, that's good enough. Move, put it out there.
Yeah.
Which happens, but it can take a lot of, like, I don't know, thinking. You know, it's not like Rick Baker goes in there and doesn't give a shit about what he's sculpting. There's a lot of thought that goes into the whole characterization of this, whatever it is. Then if it's a big giant city smashing something or other, well, just have fun with it. You know, you might want to take into consideration, well, something is so big, what would that have to look like? Generally never matters to anybody.
Right, yeah, no. That just goes
you know, it's just also, it's about having fun with what it might want to be. I think when things get too, unless it's the movie needs it, but if things get so alien and beyond being able to recognize anything in it that's part of this planet, I think audience has a hard time connecting to or getting any sort of emotional kick out of it. Yeah. It becomes too weird, and it's like, man, I don't know, what the hell am I looking at?
Right.
Unless that's what they want.
Right.
And so that's something I usually try to do, even in weird stuff, is incorporate things that were either animals that you could recognize or get a sense of something that was somewhere in the back of your mind you could connect to.
So a visual hook that locks into an emotional kind of thing.
It's like the baby dragons for Dragon Slayer. That was like I took the idea of a bat and a bulldog, both animals, and smashed them together. And sort of that's how that
with
came
a sprinkling
about.
of dragon and
with a little dragon in there, and based on Phil's mama dragon,
right? Which is amazing.
No,
and that's I think the context that you talk about is really key and crucial to say, not just what makes a good monster, but what makes this monster for this movie good, or this monster good for this movie. One of those.
You're speaking like a monster.
That's a Tom-like monster. So this kind of goes with how things have changed over the years, but there is still a fair amount of prosthetic work being done in movies, and it seems like lately even more practical monsters and things like that. Even a little stop motion here and there. Why do you think those techniques endure?
I'm not sure, really. I guess it's because I don't know if this is true. I'm going to pretend it's true.
Sure.
That for me, there is a real magic to prosthetics and a real actor portraying a character instead of a full CG. I mean, and there's brilliant work like that, of course. But there's something really special about it when I think when the makeup goes on, if it's the right actor, that just adds to a performance, and they can become so much that character and get that across to the camera. I think that is very cool. Plus, just the craft of it for me. To see a really well done makeup job, it doesn't have to be a monster, it can be anything. And I'm seeing amazing work on these people playing just other people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's like, wow, that is amazing. And, I just like the artistry involved in that. There's artistry in the other two.
Absolutely.
I'm just fond of that.
Sure.
And it means a lot. And like stop motion too, there is there can be a hands-on feel to it. And to me, it's an accessible technique.
Yeah.
It's something that for puppetry and stuff, it's like Tim Burton's been keeping that alive for years. I think Guillermo del Toro is about to come out with Pinocchio. I don't know if that's digital or CG. I mean, digital or
Yeah,
stop
or
motion.
yeah, or some
I haven't
combination.
seen enough of it to tell me.
Yeah.
I'd like to think it was stop motion. I think with him, it might be.
Right.
And but it's just another art form. It's a tool to be used in a way that is best for your movie that you're making. That's all.
Well, I think that's a wonderful place to cap this great conversation. I thank you so much for just all your time today, for chatting about all this old stuff and new stuff, and calling out Phil Tippett. And
It was great. Had a
absolutely.
blast going down what's left of my memory lane.
I think that's a perfect place to end this. Thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe and hit the button however the kids do it. And thanks. We'll see you soon.
Bye.